Welcome in to the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest Baltimore Ravens news and rumors. We're going to be talking about some quarterbacks. Besides just Lamar Jackson, we've heard reports of a couple other names that the Ravens could potentially be interested in if Jackson does not return in 2023. We'll also let you hear from GM Eric DaCosta about his plan for this offseason and the team that they're building going forward. We'll dive into all of that and more in just a few moments. Before we do, folks, I'm very curious. The Ravens, their history goes all the way back to 1996. It's been a very good run for the Baltimore Ravens in that stretch, but I want to hear from you for as long as you've been a Ravens fan, whether it's been a day or for the entirety of this franchise. I don't care. Who is your favorite Ravens player of all time? Who comes to mind? Who is your favorite player to ever wear the Ravens uniform? Let me know in the comments section below. Give them a shout out, show them some love, and we'll get started with today's show. Baker Mayfield to Baltimore? Yes, that could be possible. The Athletic put out a report this week that the idea of Mayfield to the Ravens would not be a surprise. Wouldn't it be quick to dismiss the idea of signing Mayfield? Now, remember, Baker Mayfield obviously started his career as the number one overall pick, same draft class as Lamar Jackson, went number one overall to Cleveland. Then they decide to bring in Deshaun Watson. He ends up in Carolina. Things don't quite work out in Carolina. He then gets released, goes to the LA Rams, and had a really good finish to this year, his fifth year in the league. Now he's an unrestricted free agent. With questions about Lamar's future, could they turn to Baker? Well, here's what The Athletic had to say. I'd fully expect Mayfield to sign somewhere that gives him the best opportunity to be the week one starter. Maybe that's staying with the Rams, where there are questions about Matthew Stafford's health. But if there's not a decent starting opportunity available to him, the Ravens would represent a soft landing spot. It's well documented the Ravens like Mayfield coming out of the draft. He had a good relationship with Jackson, and he's close with tight end Mark Andrews. Ravens decision makers have always liked and respected Mayfield. When the Ravens faced Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers in 2022, Steve jogged to the Panthers' side of the field to hug Mayfield in the pregame warmup. So here's what I look at with Baker Mayfield. Okay, let me put this simply for you. I have always been a Baker Mayfield fan. I respect the hell out of him. I know there's been some up and downs. But I think Baker is a good insurance policy. I don't know, and even for me, somebody that loves Baker, I don't know at this point if Baker can ever be a franchise quarterback. But he can be a placeholder or he can be a really good backup of some sorts. And there might be room to make this work in Baltimore potentially. In some scenario. You look at the numbers, what he did in Cleveland. It was up and down, sure, but he was able to do things that that franchise had never seen, taking them to the postseason, getting a playoff win, going from winless to breaking down the beer cave and unleashing all the Bud Lights in Cleveland. It was an interesting run for Baker for sure. And you look at what happened this year when he started with the Carolina Panthers. Things did not go that great with a completion percentage of less than 58%, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was just simply off. But then when he ended up with the LA Rams and you paired him with Sean McVay, that was a really good duo. In particular, what he did in that Denver game on Christmas Day was just outstanding. We know about the Raiders game when he led the 98-yard comeback drive on Thursday Night Football. That was a good run for Baker Mayfield. So I'll say this, for the Ravens, whether they move on from Lamar Jackson or they bring him back and potentially Baker as the backup, whatever it may be, I am all ears. I'm open to the possibility of Baker Mayfield. But what I'm not open to is saying, you know what, we're going to move on from Lamar and this is going to be the guy to lead the franchise forward after that. To me, this is an insurance policy. This is not a long-term life insurance policy, if that makes sense. So, with that, what about Baker Mayfield? You like the idea of bringing him to the Baltimore Ravens this offseason? If you do, type Y for yes. If not, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section, Y for yes, in for no, about the possibility of bringing Baker Mayfield to the Ravens. Let's keep talking quarterbacks now. Also, in the same article with The Athletic, There is speculation about Tua being involved in a trade with Lamar, the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Now, you guys, I'm sure, already know about Lamar, of course, his connections to the city of Miami. And then Tua you have as a very young quarterback that's shown promise at times here. Could there be a blockbuster deal potentially here? Well, here's what an anonymous executive had to say to The Athletic about this possibility. It's hard to build an offense around Lamar. You can certainly do it, but a place like the Jets, is that the best fit for what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do? Mike McDaniel probably would do great with Lamar. Maybe Lamar for Tua trade makes sense. Maybe Atlanta would make sense for Lamar and Arthur Smith, but I think Baltimore tags him and holds on to him, is what the anonymous executive had to say. Now, we will dive into all of that in just a second and kind of dissect the numbers on this here. But first, here's what we're offering here, a great deal for Ravens fans. We have these awesome jerseys. And look, you may be somebody that loves the current era of Baltimore Ravens players like Lamar Jackson or Mark Andrews or others. But you know what? We take care of some of your favorite old-time players too, like Ray Lewis and company. We got Marcus Williams. All these guys are represented. And we have the different colors, whether it's the purple, the gold, the black. Doesn't matter your shape and size, whatever it may be. We got you covered. And it's a great deal now. Get yours while supplies last. Look, it's summertime is coming around the corner. Currently, right now, we're in the colder months, but you'll want to be getting your jersey so you're prepared when football season rolls around next year. Get your jersey now. Chatsports.com/Ravens jersey. Get yours today. Now, here's what I look at, though, with Tua. I give Tua a lot of credit. I think he is a talented quarterback. But if the Dolphins are at a point where they are done with Tua, where they say, you know what, enough is enough, we're ready to move on from our young quarterback, that to me is a sign that everyone else should be done too. Because when it comes to talent, what he's done on the field, what we saw this past season is the talent is not the issue with Tua. He can win football games and he can play at a high level, but it's the health matter. And if the Dolphins are at a point where they're saying to themselves, yeah, we don't want to invest in Tua because we don't believe in him, to me that reflects the health. That should be a red flag and should be alarming for the rest of the entire NFL as far as that goes when it comes to Tua on that front. So for me, that's why I would say no on a potential trade. The biggest reason, not even about Lamar, but because of Tua. You can see that the statistics are fine. Statistics are good with Tua. He had a very good year this past year. But if Miami says no, that means they're saying the health concerns are too much, and that should alarm everyone else in the National Football League as far as I'm concerned. Pick a quarterback. Which one would you rather have? If all things are equal here and you can pick one or the other, are you going with Lamar Jackson or are you going with Tua Tagovailoa? Which one would you pick? If it's Lamar Jackson, type 8 for Lamar. If it's Tua, type 1 for Tua. Let me know in the comment section which quarterback would you rather have. Would you rather roll with Lamar? Would you rather roll with Tua? Type 8 for Lamar, 1 for Tua. Folks, you got to subscribe to the channel. We are covering this team each and every day with the latest happenings on your favorite team. If you love the Baltimore Ravens, if you want more Ravens coverage, this is the place to be for the flock. We're doing live shows now here on the channel for the very first time. We also are counting down the days to the draft, free agency, trades, and more. If you love your Baltimore Ravens, you got to subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing. We are getting so close to 9,000 subscribers. When we get to 9,000 subscribers, I'm going to take 9 shots on the show just for the flock out there because you know what? I feel like doing that because you guys absolutely deserve it. So subscribe now. It doesn't cost you a thing. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a moment. All right, one final note before we go. Eric DeCosta, the Ravens general manager, spoke this week about the team's goals for the offseason, and it was pretty telling. In fact, inspiring to hear what Eric DeCosta had to say. Our goal is to be really competitive. Strong team every single year, and John Harbaugh jokes with me all the time. He doesn't really have any interest at this stage of his coaching career being in a total rebuild and what that entails, and I really don't either. Our goal is to always have that window open when we can compete to win the whole thing. So I think we've made a lot of good decisions with the cap over the last 4 years. I agree. I think they've made some very good decisions. They have laid the groundwork. I think this team is very close to achieving what they want in being one of those teams. I don't think when you look at this Ravens team that they are very far off from the other elite teams in the AFC, of the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. They are just a couple of players away. Even when you factor in the quarterback position, whoever is at quarterback, Baltimore has the pieces to stay in contention for a title. If they have to go to insurance policy Baker Mayfield next year, or if they were to bring in Tua, this team still has ways and reason that they compete with everything else they've done. Now, you still obviously have to add in some pieces when it comes to the receiving core and fix a few things here and there, but this team is a lot closer to the top than they are the bottom as far as I'm concerned. I like the direction of this franchise. Love the decisions that DaCosta and Harbaugh have made. Now let's see them build upon that and have a big offseason and try to get this team to that next level, that next echelon that we're talking about. So before we go, scale it for me, 1 through 10. Confidence level of the Ravens getting this offseason right, of giving this team what they need to do to take that next step, to join the elites of the National Football League. How confident are you that the Ravens are going to pull it off? Let me know in the comment section. Scale it for me, 1 through 10, and I'll see you next time right here on the Ravens Rundown.